What's up everybody, Griffey here. Whether they're actors who appeared in the original or Fresh Blood, these folks all have one thing in common. They all declined a role in a remake. Although the protagonist of Tim Burton's Dumbo is played by Colin Farrell, the part was almost given to Will Smith. Disney approached Smith for the role in January 2017, but it didn't amount to anything. One possible reason for this is that Smith was hoping to start production on Bad Boys for Life and that Dumbo would have conflicted with that. More noteworthy, however, is that Disney couldn't come to an agreement with Smith on his salary, who reportedly asked for $20 million for his part. It turns out Disney didn't want to spend quite that much on a single actor, not even Smith, so they began looking elsewhere for their lead. After parting with Disney, Smith successfully struck an equally lucrative deal with Netflix. His payment for Bright was rumored to be at least $20 million. Of course, Disney courted Smith again for their reboot of Aladdin, this time offering him $12.5 million upfront to play Genie. Smith agreed, and the rest is history.
I never said I was all-knowing, I said I was all-powerful.
For the live-action reboot of The Little Mermaid, Harry Styles was considered for the role of Prince Eric, though he wouldn't be the first musician to be offered a role in a Disney remake. In fact, his would-be co-star Halle Bailey was known mostly for her music before she was cast to play Ariel. However, Styles later decided he didn't want to be a Disney prince, so the role went to Jonah Hauer-King.
I never believed all that lore about mermaids luring sailors to their deaths.
Styles never directly explained his reasons for leaving the project, but director Rob Marshall offered some insight into the performer's motivations, conflicting career goals. He told Entertainment Weekly, "At the end of the day, he really felt like he wanted to go off and do the movies that he ended up doing, which were sort of darker." Marshall added that Styles is hoping to branch out and prove to his fans that he can do more than just sing. But it's hard to show off his acting chops if everybody only knows him as a singer. Even before Max announced it would launch a TV series reboot of Harry Potter with an all-new cast, Daniel Radcliffe made it clear he had no intentions of playing Harry Potter again, at least for the foreseeable future. In a 2022 interview with the New York Times, Radcliffe admitted he was a little bit relieved that playing Harry Potter no longer consumed every waking hour. He said in the interview, "I'm getting to a point where I feel like I made it out of Potter okay, and I'm really happy with where I am now."
Is this all real? Or is it just happening inside my head?
He added that it feels way too soon. Barely 10 years have passed since the first franchise ended. Radcliffe told Variety, "I'm not saying that I'll never go back into any franchise, but I like the flexibility that I have with my career now. And I don't want to get in a situation where I'm signed up for one series for years in advance." In any event, J.K. Rowling's outspoken stance on trans rights has shaken many Potter fans' faith in the author, including Radcliffe. He has publicly criticized Rowling and shown his support for trans Potter fans. Knowing that Rowling will have significant involvement in the new Max series, it's unlikely Radcliffe will want to work with her under those conditions. Two popular musicals courted Ryan Gosling around the same time, because who wouldn't want him as their romantic lead? While hunting for the cast of the 2017 reboot of Beauty and the Beast, Disney reportedly approached Gosling to play the Beast. Director Damien Chazelle must have had the same idea because he wanted Gosling for La La Land. Both movies were filmed during the summer of 2015, and since Gosling couldn't be in two places at once, he chose the latter. With Gosling out of the picture, Disney instead chose Dan Stevens for the Beast, and he turned out to be a perfect fit. Funnily enough, Emma Watson actually turned down a leading role in La La Land in order to play Belle in Beauty and the Beast, so the two performers came awfully close to switching places. Still, we're glad that the stars aligned because it's impossible to imagine La La Land without Gosling. La La Land wasn't the only major role that Emma Watson turned down. She was also considered for the role of Cinderella in Kenneth Branagh's 2015 remake, though she wasn't interested. Disney fans would only learn her reasons for this much later after Watson had gotten a starring role in another Disney reboot, Beauty and the Beast. Watson told Total Film, "I didn't know they were going to make Beauty and the Beast at the time I turned down Cinderella. She simply didn't think she was a good match for the character of Cinderella. When they offered me Belle, I just felt the character resonated with me so much more than Cinderella did."
He's not a monster, Gaston. You are.
Watson saw Belle as a much more inspiring role model for young girls. She admired the way that Belle bucks the orthodoxy in her village and refuses to let anybody tell her what to believe.
She's so fierce and so smart and like I just think she's the coolest.
The 2018 reboot of A Star is Born had a troubled production history spanning more than 15 years. As early as 2002, Hollywood was planning to adapt another version of the 1937 film, though in its earliest iteration, it was nothing like the final film. Joel Schumacher had been attached to direct, while Will Smith hoped to play the leading man. Smith was considering leaning into Latin music as an influence for the reboot. For his co-star, Smith approached musician Alicia Keys, but she ultimately said no. Her manager Jeff Robinson explained to MTV why she changed her mind, saying, "Her first movie shouldn't be a movie where she's basically playing herself. I don't think that's real acting, playing yourself." Robinson insisted that Keys hoped to step a bit more outside her comfort zone and play a more complicated character. Of course, he added that Keys probably wasn't going to be too ambitious just yet. He suggested that the Grammy Award-winning songwriter wanted to start out with a solid supporting role and then later step up to become a leading lady, saying, "When you're the focal point of the movie and you're expected to carry a movie on your back, I think that's a mistake a lot of singers fall into." Alicia Keys was just one of many musicians considered for the reboot of A Star is Born. However, one star holds the distinction of being offered the part and turning it down more than once: Beyoncé. For the longest time, she was courted to play the female lead, even as the possible casting of her co-star changed from Russell Crowe to Leonardo DiCaprio to Bradley Cooper. Alas, it wasn't meant to be. In August 2011, Beyoncé announced she was pregnant. At first, it seemed like this would only delay the film's production, but a year later, she decided to drop out of the project altogether, thanks to her busy schedule and the uncertainty of when Warner Brothers would actually begin filming. In March 2016, Beyoncé was approached yet again for the role, which she was willing to consider with one crucial caveat. An anonymous source told Page Six, Beyoncé wanted too much money, and Warner Brothers balked at her price. The deal fell apart, and that was the end of Beyoncé's involvement. This meant Warner Brothers needed to hunt for a female lead again, and they chose Lady Gaga.
They used to beg me to sing. It's an honor, really.
After the Danish film Another Round won an Oscar for Best International Feature Film, Leonardo DiCaprio obtained the rights to create a remake in the English language. Many fans criticized the choice to reboot an international film so close to the release of the original. Regardless, director Thomas Vinterberg doesn't mind that his film is being adapted into an English language remake, or that Leonardo DiCaprio is likely to play the role originated by Mads Mikkelsen. In fact, he believes it wouldn't make sense to cast the same actor from the original. Vinterberg told IndieWire, "Asking the same actor to do a different interpretation could be a little bit confusing. Mads is fluent in English, and he's a brilliant actor who pulled this off really well, but this will have to be interpreted into something else." In a later interview with IndieWire, Mikkelsen said to count him out of the remake, telling the publication, "I'm glad not to be a part of it. It's a tricky thing to replay the same character. It's better off in someone else's hands." Ron Perlman is convinced that Hellboy ain't Hellboy without Guillermo del Toro. He loved collaborating with del Toro on the first two films, and he loved the director's pitch for how he wanted the third movie to end, which Perlman considers a perfect conclusion to the trilogy. So when he caught wind that Hollywood was attempting to make a reboot instead of a third film, Perlman declined the invitation to work on the reboot. This was because del Toro was too busy with other projects to participate in the 2019 film, which was a deal breaker for Perlman. In an interview with Empire, he summed up his feelings saying, "Without del Toro, I have no interest in donning the makeup again." However, Perlman harbors no ill feelings toward David Harbour, the actor who replaced him in the 2019 film. Perlman told Comic Book Movie, "I wish them well, but it was not in my bailiwick." Technically, Anne Hathaway does appear in the 2010 film Alice in Wonderland. However, she was originally asked to play a different role in the movie, which she turned down, the titular Alice. It seemed like an obvious fit since the actress had played similar heroines in The Princess Diaries and Ella Enchanted. Yet the casting choice might have been a bit too obvious because Hathaway felt like she was being typecast. She said in an interview with GQ, "I had been there, done that sort of pretty girl in a fairy dress role." Nevertheless, Hathaway was still interested in participating in the reboot. There was another character from Alice's world that Hathaway found far more fascinating: the White Queen. But Hathaway almost didn't get the opportunity to play the character she wanted. She told GQ, "When Tim Burton came on board, he had the cast he wanted, and of course, that didn't include me. But the other actress who was marked had scheduling conflicts, so the studio piped up and put me forward." It's a good thing they did because Hathaway gives a refreshing take on the character. The influences that she channeled while playing the White Queen were varied, ranging from Greta Garbo to David Bowie. Hathaway described the character as, quote, a sort of psychotic bunny rabbit.
Butterfingers.